I agree. There's no point in spending money on Job Centre Plus. We need to invest in infrastructure of the country. We need to build hospitals, build schools, and give people jobs in construction to do that.
OK, and the man with the beard there in spectacles.
I'd just to ask, looking to the future, and who is best placed to get us out of this mess, I'd like to ask Ken and Tessa, in the event of a hung parliament next year, will you make Vince Cable Chancellor?
I think they'd be very relieved if neither of their parties have to put up the Chancellor, so perhaps they would. Would you accept the Chancellorship in a hung Parliament, Vince Cable, on any combination of parties?
Well, I would be very happy to be Chancellor of the Exchequer in a Liberal Democrat government, which is what we're working for.
OK. We move on. Jeff Collis, please.
Would the panel agree that a minimum price for alcohol would be to punish the majority for the sins of the minority?
A proposal that came from the Chief Medical Officer this week in England for a minimum price of 50 pence for every unit, whatever that is, of alcohol that's drunk. Douglas Murray.
No, I think it's a preposterous idea. I myself think that we should be doing everything we can to pump money into the drinking industry in this country, and I've made a personal commitment to do so. But really, I mean, they've got to be joking. I mean, during a recession to have a sort of gimmick and trick like this, the social benefits of doing this, I can't see. I don't think anyone can. Binge drinking, the reasons why our town centres are as they are on Friday and Saturday nights, not because young people, middle-aged drinkers rather, need to sort of be taxed extra pences on their pints and wine. I mean, you know, it's pretty simple to stop town centres being the way they are, if that's what they're aiming for. You don't have bar after bar after bar. You don't have drink as much as you can for £10. You don't encourage people, with young people, to drink these kind of, you know, alcopop kind of things and sell them off for £1 a go. I don't see why the rest of us have to be punished during this recession. This is one of the few ways I can see to get out of this recession, or at least to bear it.
This question's to Tessa directly. I was just wondering what your views were with regards to the current drink problems that the UK in general is suffering, and whether you believe some of these problems may be attributed to the Licensing Act 2003, which was brought in by this government and in effect liberalised drinking legislation within this country.
Well, I don't normally allow members of the audience to direct one panellist, because otherwise everybody hones in on one panellist and everybody else gets left out. But in this case, I'll allow it. Tessa Jowell.
We have a problem with drink in this country, and it's a very particular problem of binge drinking, particularly young people, and then the crime and disorder that can arise from that. And so if we just go back to the original question about the Chief Medical Officer's report...
Hang on. I directed his question to you, which is about 24-hour licensing.
No.
And then we'll go back to the other point.
24-hour licensing is a tiny part of the provisions of the Licensing Act, which are to reduce crime and disorder, to keep children safe from harm, done by transferring the functions of licensing from magistrates to local authorities. And actually, there are now beginning to be those parts of the country where the combined impact of very good policing and cooperation with the local authority are beginning to reduce the levels of crime and disorder.
Right. Well, I'll come back to you on the price of drink. Fern, Britton.
I think the licensing laws do have to be tightened again. I have 2 teenage sons. So far, they haven't got into any trouble, but as one of them said to me the other night, I will let you down at some stage. And I said, well, yes, you will. That's a rite of passage. But I think opening up the licensing hours to 24 hours, the reason was to get more money back into the coffers of the government. That money now has been spent where? Well, you're shaking your head. Where did the money go then, Tessa? Because we're taxed heavily on our alcohol, aren't we? But we are taxed. But no, I mean,
what I was shaking my head at is this reference to 24-hour licensing. Actually, a tiny proportion of licensed premises have 24-hour licenses. Some supermarkets do, bars in stations. But whether or not pubs get 24-hour licences is a decision
right.
of the local authority with representation
Let's go back to
from
the question,
local people.
which was about a minimum price of 50 pence a unit, Fern, Britton.
I don't think it would make any difference at all. I think it would make a difference if we did ban the huge litre, 2 litre, whatever they are, bottles of rocket fuel that people can get for threepence. I think that you've got to get rid of those and also ban the alcopops. And then I think a big programme of education on alcohol would help our young people.
All right. The woman at the back there. Yes.
We talk about alcohol and the price of alcohol, but what is causing people to go out and drink? No one ever mentions that.
What do you think causes people to go out and drink?
I think it's lifestyle. I think it's where you're brought up. It's your background.
So do you think price will affect it? I mean, if I've got the figures of what things would cost, it would mean a bottle of wine would cost £4.50. Perhaps more significant, 6-pack of lager would cost not less than £6.
I think it makes no difference.
You don't think it makes a difference?
No.
Okay. Ken Clarke.
Well, I think obviously is a serious social problems are caused by the fact that the minority of the population can't cope with alcohol. But I think the proposal from the Chief Medical Officer, I think it was, shows that having the best intentions can sometimes lead you to absurd conclusions. And I think the idea to tax everybody is wrong. I actually think the more flexible licensing hours are perfectly all right. The old British licensing laws did not work in restraining drink. All the fights used to be at closing time, when everybody was poured out into the streets at the same time. So therefore, I do think you have to tackle it in ways that are somewhat more practical. And I agree with the lady at the back that the really worrying thing is a lot of it is the culture and fashion of sections of the population, which are almost beyond the reach of government. And you can make terrible mistakes by just thrashing about, thinking you'll price them out of these habits and so on. Binge drinking has gone on as long as humanity has been here. There has been a drink problem amongst the young for as long as I have been alive.
And you're speaking as beer drinker of the year.
Absolutely.
What is beer drinker? Why were you beer drinker of the year?
Because
quantity or quality?
Because actually my public image has always been associated with by permanently holding a pint of beer. Now, I do like pints of beer, but people were given the impression I drank nothing but pints of beer. I actually drink any form of alcohol known to man apart from alcohol. And I can't stand lager, which sometimes people give me as
How many years have you been beer drinker
of
the year?
But I don't drink.
Are you regularly made beer drinker of the year? Is it
No, only once, and I suspect it was promotional purposes for the beer group. But I drink in an ordinary social fashion, and most of the people I know drink in a reasonable fashion. And those who are trying to tackle the social problems, you need education, you need to try and alter the culture of the young, you need to enforce strictly, local authorities and police, the rules on the licensed premises, and they have more powers than they used to have, but don't go in for puritanical punishment of the entire population.
I don't think that 24-hour drinking is to really blame. I go out in London quite a lot, and I, to be honest, struggle to find a bar that's open 24 hours a day.
There you are.
And even when you do manage to find somewhere that is open, you can't get home because the tubes will finish at about 12:30.
I was in one last night that said it wasn't going to close till 3 in the morning. It wasn't bad, was it?
What time did you leave?
I was drinking water and filming, but it was interesting. Yes, and the woman there yes, you, madam.
I think the debate is slightly hypocritical. We talk about people drinking in town centres and getting into fights, but we don't talk about Prince Harry or William falling out of clubs, or any celebrity falling out of clubs at 4 in the morning on a Monday and Tuesday night. That seems to be perfectly acceptable. Obviously, they're drinking a better quality of alcohol.
Except they're always all over the papers, aren't they, when they do that, falling out, if they do. Vince Cable.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to be very unpopular and cancel out all the nice comments that were made earlier by saying that actually I think the Chief Medical Officer has a very good case. And it's not something you'd necessarily want. That makes one supporter.